happens when a house becomes more than real estate? When it becomes memory, identity, and a question about what comes next? Today, I'm recording on location in the Sunset District, inside a home that feels like a cross-section of this neighborhood's past and its uncertain future. Lately, a lot of people have been asking me what I've been up to. And honestly, I've been doing a lot of real estate, but real estate isn't just contracts and escrow timelines. It's history, it's kids playing in the street, it's roller skating rinks, it's the version of the sunset that some longtime residents still carry with them. And then there's Jim Kirk. Yes, that's really his name. Jim grew up here. He never really left. Over the years, he's transformed his family home into something layered and unmistakably personal. Walls covered in signs, artwork, objects collected over decades. Everything has a story. Now he's trying to figure out what happens to that story next.
So are we rolling now?
We're rolling.
We're rolling. You want to start with questions? Yes. Okay, go for it.
Yeah, so welcome back to the Sunset Connection. I am actually sitting in a very unique house. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a realtor. There is a really amazing home in the outer sunset that everyone needs to see. And it would be just, I don't even know what it's called. What would you call this?
They call it the Starship House. Somebody called it like a living art piece.
A living art museum.
A living art museum. The house, yeah. And right now we're sitting on the bridge of the Enterprise from Star Trek. So
yeah, like for listeners of the podcast, they can't see where we're sitting, but could you describe it to us?
I built the bridge of the Enterprise from Star Trek from 1966, the TV series. And this is the bridge where they controlled the ship. And I built it actually for a film that I wrote. The inspiration behind the film was, partially because my name is Jim Kirk, like the captain of the original series. Another part of the inspiration was the fact that when they built the set back in 1966, it was pretty, low budget. So I knew that I could probably pull it off because I built the whole thing out of Christmas lights and foam core and 2x4s and whatnot. But the real inspiration was the film touches on how do we get to that future, 300 years in our future, where Gene Roddenberry pictured this really positive outcome of our civilization. That was kind of the inspiration, was how do we get there from like where we are today.
And for context, we are sitting in his backyard. Literally, if you've ever been to a sunset home, it can be pretty boring in those yards. And he has transformed it into a starship, and he has games outside and people come by all the time. It is in quite lively setting.
Well, see, when I was a kid, we had Playland out here. There was the arcade of the Cliff House. There was the ice skating rink on 48th Avenue. There was
the bowling alley, right?
The bowling alley. There was all these things. I don't know. Maybe I feel like my house is kind of trying to keep that alive, like where there's kind of an open feeling and fun things for people to do, and people come here and they meet one another, and it's just kind of an open space for people. And so people love coming here. I feel like there's something for everybody. There's they call it the Starship House, but it's not just about Star Trek. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got, rock and roll history. It's got the history of our neighborhood. I built a model of the Cliff House, the old Cliff House that we used to have here. There's a lot of stuff about Playland and Sutro. There's a concept for building an amphitheater where the Sutro baths used to be. I made a whole model diorama of that.
Right before we started this interview, people who were walking by after having lunch at Underdogs too. And there's also, neighborhood kids just like walk by and they banter and they know each other. It's a really lovely community feeling that we get, I think, when we're here. So can I kind of start from the beginning? And can you tell me a little bit more about where you were born and how you kind of came to the Sunset District?
So I was born here in the Sunset. My mother is from the East Bay. My father's Santa Monica, and they met here in the city. I grew up down by the Golden Gate Park.
You said your home was one of the first homes in the Sunset District.
That house I grew up in was built in 1911, 45th between Lincoln and Irving. And ever since I was a kid, I've just always been like an artist. Like I just was able to draw.
And you said that when you were young, you really wanted to be an archaeologist.
I had studied Egyptology, the discovery of King Tut's tomb, and I just was always fascinated by all that, ancient history and just history in general. And so I would dig holes in the backyard, like excavating, for hoping to find something. Right there on 45th between Lincoln and Irving, down by the Golden Gate Park. And that, like I said, that house was built in 1911, so it was one of the first homes built out here. Um, and I actually found some relics from the past. I've got a dog skull. I had the whole skeleton, but I still have the skull. And the dog tag reads 1915. So that dog is 110 years old, one of the first dogs that probably lived in the Sunset. There's also an Egyptian coin that I found that probably came from the Sutro Museum, because it's 120 years. The coin is 120 years old. Of course, when I was a kid, I thought it was thousands of years old, and I was so excited to find this, Egyptian coin. I love to create stuff and make stuff, and then so now, 50 years later, my house is turned into like this is a collection of all my creations, all my collections. And so, yeah, this is just kind of what I do. I just like to make stuff. And,
Were your parents really supportive of your artistic streak?
my parents were. My parents was separated when I was a little guy, and I had the stepfather, Tony Gennaro. He was an amazing guy. He was a professional boxer. He was in World War II. He was just an incredible guy, but he wasn't the artistic type. Where my parents were, actually, my father's an artist, my mother's an artist, and so they were always very supportive. My stepfather, not so much, but he was a very strong influence in my life. So I was fortunate that way. They let me kind of explore things and kind of think for myself. And when I was a teenager, I used to move furniture and haul garbage. We'd go to these homes where we'd have to pull everything out. It was almost like being an archaeologist, because as a little kid, I wanted to be an archaeologist. So that job I had when I was a teenager, I used to find some really cool stuff, and that's part of my collection here, is some of the stuff that I found over the years. I spent a lot of my teenage years out here in the Sunset going to rock concerts. I play the guitar, and that was kind of the scene out here.
And you went to Lincoln High School, right?
I went to Lincoln High School. But that's what we would do. We would, on the weekends, we'd go down to the beach, and there's a lot of kegger parties, and then we'd go to all the rock concerts at the Cow Palace. And but yeah, I've been collecting and creating since I was a little guy. So my house is just filled with all these, collections and creations that I've done over the years. So yeah, it's quite a thing to see.
And so you mentioned the house that you're living in, which is on 46th Avenue between Terraville and Santiago. It was owned by your family.
Yeah, so growing up, I grew up, like I said, down by the Golden Gate Park, and this house here on 46th and Terraville, that was my uncle's house. And so it's been in the family for 3 generations now. It belonged to my uncle. Then when he passed away, my mom ended up with the house after we sold the other house. She ended up here, and then 25 years ago, I moved into the downstairs portion of the house. I took care of my mom. We took care of each other. I had a place to live, and I would help her pay the bills. I would help her get through her appointments, take her grocery shopping, take her to church, take her to her doctor appointments. And we were just there for each other. And so when she passed away, it's been about, I don't know, 7, 8 years now. After she passed away, a couple years went by, and my sisters, they don't even live in San Francisco, and they sold the property, which I can understand. All these properties sell for a lot of money now. But I always just assumed that I would keep the house in the family, and because my sisters, they have kids, and they could have inherited the property, and I don't know. I just kind of assumed we'd just keep it in the family, but that wasn't the case. And fortunately, I found this really nice couple that bought the house 5 years ago, and I've been working with them. We do Airbnb upstairs to bring in money to pay for the house, to keep it going. So I run the Airbnb upstairs. I host it. I clean it. I take care of that, and I've also helped them on some of their other properties. But I've got a really good relationship with the people who bought the house, but they're at the point where they want to get out, they want to sell. And that was always understood from the beginning, that they might want to sell it. So that's where I'm at now with it. I need to figure out how to buy it. And like we talked about, it's turned into kind of, my house is kind of like a community center. The community comes over, people come through, walk through, talk to one another, meet one another. All the kids in the neighborhood love to come here. So it's kind of already like a little community center, but I'd like to see it turn into an actual landmark, like maybe some kind of after school program, or maybe an art space where there's the whole upstairs to the house where we do the Airbnb. That could potentially be like a maker space, maybe an after school thing for the parents to bring their kids. But that's where I'm at with it now. And I need to figure out what we're going to do, because the people who bought the house, they do want to sell. So we're kind of at a turning point right now. And we've had a lot of publicity lately. Western Neighborhoods Project, the new District 4 supervisor, Alan Wong, was here. And I've got a lot of interest in the house, a lot of support. But what it's going to turn into, we don't know yet.
Tell me about Java Beach and your history with them.
I've been working for Java Beach now for 20 plus years, and me and Pat built the park at Java Beach, the little community park across the street from Java. So yeah, and Java Beach has been a big part of my life and a big part of the community. It's like it used to be a bar there when I was a kid, and now since Pat took it over like 30 years ago, it's this coffee shop where people come and they meet one another and they just hang out, and it's incredible what it's done for the neighborhood and what it's done for me being a part of that. But yeah, I still work for them doing repairs and whatnot, painting and stuff.
So when you say the community, do you know like how many people that you're referring to that are like still here in the Sunset District?
A lot of the people that I grew up with here are not here anymore. I mean, Pat's still here. There's a group of people that have been here the whole time. But it's a lot of people I grew up with. The 80s were kind of a wild time, and there was a lot of drinking, and a lot of the people that I grew up with either went to prison or they passed away, or they did, do well for themselves. Like Metallica, they used to hang out here all the time, and oh yeah, you'd see James Hetfield walking down the street, or Kirk Hammett, and they obviously have done very well, and they've moved on. But yeah, a lot of the original members of the Sunset out here are not here anymore. But Pat is one of the original guys out here, and he's just done incredible things with that corner at Judah Street, and turned it into a real community feeling where people come and they hang out, and there's been so many people that have gotten to know one another there. And then the park that we built across the street is a place where people can just come and hang out, and yeah, it's been great being a part of that.
If you could wave a magical wand, like what would you like the future of the Sunset to look like?
Well, like I said earlier, that when I was a kid here, we had a ice skating rink on 48th Avenue. We had the arcade up at the Cliff House. We had Playland at the beach. Stuff like that, where the kids had somewhere to go. Kind of like what my house has become. Like, it's a place where they can come and play games and learn about stuff. And I'd like to see more of that. Like, I feel like everything they're building is either a housing project or a coffee shop. I'd like to see more focus on fun activities for the kids. Like the Sloat Garden Center, that building there, they want to turn that into a big housing project, which is, it's good to have housing, but they could turn that into like an arcade, a bowling alley. I don't know, something really fun, like we used to have out here. Something fun.
What about for the adults too?
I feel like we've got plenty for the adults to do. I mean, there's so many bars and restaurants, but I mean, the adults could enjoy stuff like that too. If we had like an ice skating rink or an arcade.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me about your home and your life and how the Sunset's been a big part of it.
Of course, yeah, and it's my pleasure. And I appreciate your time, and I appreciate everyone who is showing an interest in the house. Like I said, I don't know what's going to become of it, but hopefully we can make something happen here where the house can keep going. Just for one thing, I can't imagine moving it. It's become like a part of the neighborhood, and just physically trying to move it would be next to impossible.
Sitting there, surrounded by decades of collected objects, I kept thinking, homes like these aren't just structures, they're archives. As this neighborhood changes, these conversations matter more than ever. What kind of sunset are we building, and who gets to stay? I'm Jessica J. Ho, and this is The Sunset Connection.